Chapter 1. The Falling of the Veil. The great clock of London, timekeeper to an empire, booms out across the city. Its deep, resonant voice is a sound felt in the chest as much as heard by the ear. 8, 9, 10, each note a heavy, bronze pendulum swinging through the fog, marking the hour for those in warm drawing rooms and those upon the cold streets alike. This is the time when the city begins to change its skin. The frantic, smoke-belching industry of the day grinds to a halt. The dayfolk, the toilers and the clerks, the masters and the mistresses, retreat behind their walls of brick and glass, leaving the world outside to the quiet and to those for whom the night is not for resting, but for surviving. The veil between the two Londons, the bright and the shadowed, begins to fall, and it is here, in this softening of the light and the muffling of the sound, that our story begins. We are not going to follow a single person, not tonight. Instead, we will drift like a stray ember from a chimney on the gentle, sooty breath of the city, observing, feeling, and finally, resting. Let your own breathing slow to match the pace of this story. Let the weight of the day settle away from you. As the soot settles upon the cobblestones after the last cart has rattled home, there is no urgency here, only the gradual, inevitable dimming of the light. Listen to the sounds as they begin to shift. The sharp clatter of hooves and iron-rimmed wheels on granite setts becomes less frequent, each one a lone event echoing down a canyon of darkened buildings. In the spaces between these sounds, a different, softer symphony emerges. The gentle, persistent hiss of gas lamps, their flames encased in frosted glass, casting small, hopeful pools of light onto the damp pavement. The distant, mournful call of a riverboat on the Thames, a sound that seems to carry the weight of the water itself. The faint, papery rustle of a discarded broadsheet newspaper tumbling lazily down a lane, pushed by a sigh of wind. This is the London we are visiting, a city of profound contrast, where immense wealth existed cheek by jowl with the most abject poverty. But our focus is not on the struggle, not on the hardship, though they were ever-present facts of life. Our focus is on the quiet moments of humanity that persisted within it, on the resourcefulness, the small kindnesses, and the strange, stark beauty that could be found in their margins. For the homeless of Victorian London, the night was not a friend, but it was a familiar state of being. And with familiarity comes a certain kind of rhythm, a pattern to the hours of darkness that we can observe with a gentle, compassionate curiosity. As the last of the daylight vanishes, swallowed by the perpetual smoky haze that crowned the city, a subtle migration would begin. The day workers who had no home to go to, or those who could not afford the penny or two for a bed in a common lodging house, would start to seek their places. They were known as the street folk or the casuals. They did not move with panic, but with a weary, practiced purpose. They were looking for shelter. Not the shelter of a roof and four walls, for that was a back room, luxury far beyond their reach, but the shelter of a doorway deep enough to offer a respite from the wind, the lee side of a bridge that might break the weather's bite, or the gratings outside a bakery from which a faint, lingering warmth might still emanate, a ghost of the ovens within. Come, let us drift down towards the river. The air here is cooler, damper, carrying the complex scent of tidal water, of rotting wood, of wet rope, and the distant, tangy promise of the sea. Under the great stone arches of Blackfriars Bridge or Waterloo Bridge, small communities would form. Figures would huddle together, not for conversation, but for the simple animal comfort of shared body heat. The sound here is different again. The lapping of the water against the slimy stone piers, a soft, liquid rhythm. That is endlessly patient. The creak of moored barges, the cry of a night bird over the water. If you listen closely, you might hear the low murmur of a voice, a man perhaps, telling a story to his companion, not to entertain, but to keep the terrifying silence of the night at bay. The stories would be simple, memories of a warmer time, a tale heard in a pub, a recounting of a small piece of luck found that day, a dropped halfpenny, a scrap of food given by a sympathetic cook. Look up from under the bridge. Between the great iron girders, you can see the sky. In central London, the thick blanket of coal smoke often obscured the stars, but sometimes, on a night after a rain, a patch would clear. A single, bright pinprick of light might be visible, a distant, silent watcher. For a child, shivering in their mother's arms, or for an old man whose life had worn down to its final, bare threads, that single star could be a focus, a point of light to fix upon, to pull the mind away from the cold of the stone, the ache in the bones, the gnawing emptiness in the belly. It was a reminder that above the smoke and the struggle, there was still a vast, calm, and beautiful universe. Indifferent, perhaps, but also peaceful. The architecture of the city itself, so grand and imposing by day, became a different kind of landscape by night. The deep doorways of banks and offices, sealed with heavy oak and iron, became coveted alcoves. A person might curl up there, wrapped in every piece of clothing they owned, perhaps with a layer of old newspaper tucked inside for insulation, a poor man's overcoat. The sound of a policeman's steady, heavy tread on the pavement would cause a subtle shift in the darkness. The figure in the doorway would become stiller, smaller, trying to merge with the stone, to become invisible. The police, the peelers or bobbies, were not necessarily cruel, but their job was to keep the Queen's peace, and a sleeping body in a doorway was often seen as an obstruction, a blemish on the ordered face of the city. The footsteps would pass, the rhythm of the night would resume, and the held breath would be released in a soft, misty cloud. There was an economy of warmth, a delicate balance to be maintained. The body was a furnace, and it needed fuel. Without enough fuel, the cold would seep in, starting at the fingers and toes, slowly moving inward. This is why movement was a constant, even in rest. A slight shifting of weight, a rubbing of hands, a gentle stamping of feet. Small, almost unconscious motions to keep the blood flowing. Sleep, when it came, was not the deep, surrendering sleep of safety. It was a thin, fragile thing, broken by the cold, by a sudden noise, by the cramps of hunger. It was a state of hovering on the edge of consciousness, where the sounds of the night, the distant bark of a dog, the rumble of a late carriage, the chiming of the hour, would weave themselves into dreams of warmth and plenty. And so, the first chapter of the night unfolds, a time of seeking, of settling, of finding a precarious perch on the edge of the sleeping world. It is a time of patience and of quiet endurance. As you listen to the descriptions of the cooling city, of the hushed sounds and the search for shelter, allow your own body to appreciate the profound comfort it is in. Feel the weight of your blankets, a luxury unimaginable to those we observe. Feel the steady, even temperature of your room. There is no need to shift for warmth here. There is no need to seek shelter. You are already there. You are safe. You are secure. Let the image of the single bright star over the Thames fill your mind's eye. A point of calm, of constancy. Hold on to that as the sounds of Victorian London, the hiss of the gas lamp, the lap of the water, the distant bell, begin to soften and blur at the edges, becoming a lullaby for your own journey into sleep. Your eyelids are growing heavy. The world is softening. You are drifting into a peaceful and restful state. The first chapter closes, and rest begins to gently pull you under. Chapter 2. The Nocturnal Symphony. We are deep in the heart of the night now. The clock has tolled 11, then 12, then 1. Its notes seem to come from further away each time, as if the city itself is sinking deeper into its own slumber. For those awake within its grasp, the world has transformed once more. The last echoes of the day have faded completely, leaving the stage to the performers of the nocturnal hours. This is not a time of silence, but rather a time when a different layer of sound is revealed. A subtler, more intricate symphony. To lie awake in Victorian London was to become a listener to this complex composition. And as you listen now to the words describing these sounds, let them become a part of your own relaxing soundscape. A distant music that lulls you deeper into your own safe and comfortable rest. Beneath the general, soft rumble of the city, a sound that never truly ceased, came the specific, recurring motifs of the night. The regular, reassuring tread of the watchman or policeman was one of these. His footsteps were slow, measured, and heavy. Click, clack, click, clack. The sound of boot heels on stone, a rhythm of order and patrol. It was a sound that could be feared, but it could also be a comfort, a marker of the passing time. A proof that the world had not been entirely abandoned. From a distance, you might hear his occasional call, "All's well," a hollow, melodic cry that travelled through the fog, a vocal confirmation of the peace he was paid to keep. Listen for that call now, faint and far away, "All's well." It is a message for you too. All is well here. All is safe. You can let go. Then there were the sounds of industry that never slept. The low, constant hum of the telegraph wires, strung on poles along the streets, carrying their urgent messages across the empire, even in the deepest night. A faint, mechanical chattering from a newspaper office, where the mighty printing presses were already rolling, imprinting the news of the coming day onto vast sheets of paper. The sound was a dry, rhythmic rustling and thumping, a beast of ink and iron, feeding on information. For a hungry mind trying to sleep in a doorway, it was the sound of a world moving forward, a reminder that the cycle of life was perpetual, that the sun would inevitably rise again. And of course, there were the animals, the scuttle of a rat in a gutter, going about its own business of survival, a tiny, frantic life in the vastness of the city. The mournful yowl of two cats squaring off over territory in a shadowy alley, a sudden, sharp dissonance in the night's melody that would just as suddenly fade away. The soft cooing of pigeons nestled high up on a ledge, safe from the troubles of the street below. Horses, too, were part of this world. Even at this hour, a cab might clatter by, the horse's breath pluming like a locomotive in the cold air, the harness jingling with a tired, metallic sound. The smell of the horse, of leather and hay and animal sweat would cut through the fog for a moment, a warm, living scent, and then it would be gone, leaving the colder, mineral smells of stone and soot and river damp. For the homeless, the night was also a time for small, furtive activities. The scraping of a boot on the pavement as a man slowly paced back and forth, trying to keep circulation in his legs. The soft, almost inaudible crackle of a small illicit fire, built in a discarded metal can from scraps of wood and rubbish. Its flames huddled over and protected from the wind. A tiny, defiant sun around which cupped hands would glow red for a few precious moments. The murmur of low conversation between two people sharing a found crust of bread. Their words too soft to make out. The tone a mixture of weariness and a faint shared comfort. These were the sounds of resilience, of the human spirit making its small stands against the immense pressure of the night. Good weather conducted this symphony. A still, clear night was the most coveted, a time of cold that was at least dry and manageable. But a rainy night was a trial of misery. The sound of rain on London was a multi-layered thing. It pattered on the slates of the roofs high above. It dripped from countless ledges and drain pipes, creating a perpetual, irregular percussion section. It gurgled in the gutters, already choked with refuse, beginning its slow journey towards the sewers. So those without shelter, the search was not just for warmth, but for dryness. The lee side of a building became less effective as the wind shifted and drove the rain sideways. The sound of the rain was the sound of a relentless, soaking enemy, and the only response was to huddle tighter, to pull the thin coat over the head, and to wait it out, hour after hour, in a state of shivering suspension. Fog was another matter. A true London particular, a pea super, could descend with an eerie silence. It muffled the world. The gas lamps became mere smudges of dim, diffused light, unable to illuminate more than a foot or two in any direction. Sounds were deadened, distorted. A footstep would seem to come from nowhere and everywhere. A voice would be swallowed up just feet from its source. The fog had a smell all its own, a thick, gritty mixture of coal smoke and river mist and the dampness of a million bricks. In the fog, the world became small, intimate, and profoundly lonely. A person could be entirely alone in the midst of the greatest city on earth, wrapped in a cold, grey blanket that isolated them completely. It was a time for introspection, for getting lost in the memories of a past life, or simply for withdrawing into the core of the self, conserving every ounce of energy, physical and mental, for the coming of the day. But for you, dear listener, these sounds are not a threat. They are a history, a story. The patter of rain is just a gentle rhythm on the roof of your own security. The distant call of all's well is a promise. The muffling fog is simply a cozy blanket that wraps around your consciousness, softening the edges of your thoughts. You are not shivering in the damp. You are warm. You are not alone in the silence. You are accompanied by this gentle narrative. Let the nocturnal symphony of Victorian London become your lullaby. The steady tread of the watchman becomes the steady beat of your own heart. The hiss of the gas lamp is your own soft breath. The distant hum of the telegraph wires is the quiet hum of relaxation spreading through your limbs. You are drifting deeper, deeper into the night, held safe and sound, far away from the cold and the damp. The symphony plays on, but it grows softer, more distant, carrying you with it on its gentle, slow current towards dreamless sleep. Chapter 3. The flicker of a candle. The night is at its deepest. The hour between 3 and 4 in the morning is a time suspended, a hollow in the bowl of the dark. This was often the coldest time, when the body's internal furnace burned at its lowest, when the spirit could feel its most frail. It was in this deepest dark that small, fleeting moments of light, both literal and metaphorical, shone with their greatest intensity. This chapter is about those flickers of warmth and humanity that persisted against the overwhelming gloom. And as we observe these small points of light from the past, imagine them as gentle, distant stars in your own mind, guiding you further and further down the path into tranquil and restorative sleep. In a city of shadows, actual light was a precious commodity. The gas lamps did their best, but their light was feeble and ran out before dawn. Other, smaller lights could be seen. The soft, golden glow from the window of a basement bakery, where the bakers were already at work, their figures moving like shadows behind the steamy glass. The smell of baking bread would pour out into the street whenever the door opened, a torment and a temptation to those outside. Sometimes, a kind-hearted baker's boy might appear at the door and toss a stale loaf or a handful of burnt ends to the figures huddled in the darkness outside. It was not much, but it was a gesture, a tiny crack in the wall of indifference that divided the city. Then there were the coffee stalls. These were small, wheeled carts that would appear at key street corners as the night deepened, run by enterprising men who knew there was a market for warmth. They sold a hot, thick, bitter liquid called coffee for a penny a cup, and perhaps a meat pie or a slice of plum cake. The stall would be lit by a single bright oil lamp, and around it would gather a strange and silent congregation. Cabmen taking a break from their night drives, policemen on their rounds, and the homeless who had somehow scraped together a single penny. For a few minutes, they would stand together in the pool of light, cupping the hot tin mug in their hands, feeling the warmth seep into their frozen fingers. The steam from the coffee would rise into the cold air, mingling with the breath of the gathered men. There was often little conversation, just a shared animal appreciation of the heat. It was a sacrament of warmth, a brief communion before each returned to their solitary journey through the night. Light also came from within, the light of memory. For many a soul adrift on the streets of London, the only true escape from the present misery was to travel backwards in time, to a place of safety and warmth. An old soldier might retreat into the memory of a campfire on the plains of India. The crackle of the flames, the smell of exotic spices, the camaraderie of his regiment. A woman who had fallen on hard times might remember the kitchen of her childhood home, the smell of her mother's cooking, the feel of a clean apron, the sound of her father's voice reading from the Bible by the fire. These memories were like candles lit in the mind, pushing back the darkness of the present moment. They were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, its ability to find refuge even when no physical refuge was available. Sometimes light came from the most unexpected places. A wealthy gentleman returning late from his club might be moved by a sudden impulse of charity. He might flip a silver coin to a child shivering in a doorway, a small fortune that could mean a bed and a meal for days. A group of Sisters of Mercy or other charitable women might make their rounds, offering a kind word and a ticket that could be exchanged for a night's lodging in a shelter. These acts were random, unpredictable, and for those who received them, they felt like miracles. They were breaks in the relentless logic of hardship, reminders that the world was not entirely cold, that a spark of grace could fall anywhere, like a stray spark from a fire. The greatest light of all, of course, was the promise of the dawn. As the night wore on, the darkness would, imperceptibly at first, begin to soften. The black would become deep blue, then grey. The gas lamps would flicker and die, one by one, their job done. The outlines of buildings would become clearer, sharpening against the lightening sky. This was a time of profound significance. The interminable night was finally ending. The fear of freezing, of not surviving until morning, began to recede. With the dawn, came the hope of action, of movement, of finding a scrap of food, of earning a penny. The sun itself would not be visible for a long time, hidden by the buildings and the smoke, but its light would slowly bleed into the world, turning everything pale grey and washed out. The sounds would change again, heralding the shift. The first sparrows would begin to chirp, their cheerful noise a stark contrast to the grim surroundings. The rattle of a milkman's cart would be heard. The clinking of bottles a cheerful sound. Somewhere a window would be thrown open. The city was stirring like a great beast, and the night folk, those who belonged to the shadows, would begin to disperse, to blend back into the cracks and corners, to become invisible once more to the dayfolk who were now emerging. As you listen to this, feel the profound relief of the coming dawn, but from your position of ultimate safety. You do not need to wait for the sun to bring you warmth. You are already warm. You do not need to hope for the dawn to bring you safety. You are already safe. The flickering lights of the coffee stall, the glow from the bakery, the internal candle of a happy memory. See them all as gentle, soothing points in the darkness of your own closed eyes. They are not beacons of desperate hope, but simply soft, historical images to contemplate as you drift. Let the coming of the grey dawn in the story signal the coming of deep, deep rest for you. The night is almost over for them, and for you, a beautiful, peaceful sleep is just beginning. Your body is heavy and relaxed. Your mind is quiet. You are being carried on the gentle tide of this story, away from the cold streets, into the warmth of your own slumber. Chapter 4. The Half of the World. The grey dawn has finally broken over London. The city is now fully revealed in the cold, clear light of morning. The night's trials are over and a new day has begun. Smoke begins to rise from 1,000 chimneys as fires are lit in grates across the metropolis. The smell of coal smoke and breakfast cooking begins to overlay the cooler, damper smells of the night. The sound of hoofbeats and wheels becomes constant once more. A rising crescendo of industry and purpose. The night folk have mostly vanished, absorbed into the teeming crowds of the day. Their nocturnal world erased until the sun sets again. Our journey through the Victorian night is coming to a close. And as it does, we will take the feeling of that coming dawn, the relief, the hope, the return of light and warmth, and use it to anchor ourselves deeply, deeply into our own state of perfect peace and security. This final chapter is about coming home. For the homeless of Victorian London, the concept of home was a fluid one. It was not a fixed place with a door and a key. It was a feeling of momentary safety. It was the warmth of a grate when a cook allowed you to stand in the kitchen doorway. It was the dry space under a bridge, shared with others who understood your silence. It was the feeling of a hot penny cup of coffee spreading through your chest. It was the memory of a better time, held close like a locket, next to the heart. Home was not a building. It was a series of fleeting respites, small sanctuaries, carved out of the immense, indifferent city. It was the human ability to find a centre of calm within the self, even when the external world offered none. Now bring your awareness back to your own body. Feel the profound and absolute reality of your home. Feel the solidity of the mattress beneath you, supporting you completely. Feel the weight of the blankets, a gentle, embracing pressure that holds you in a cocoon of warmth. There is no chill in the air here, no dampness seeping from the stones. The air you breathe is clean, temperate, and yours. Listen to the silence of your room, or the soft, familiar sounds of your own dwelling. A gentle creak, the hum of an appliance, the sound of your own steady, calm breathing. This is not the silence of a desolate street. This is the silence of safety, of peace, of a world that is curated for your comfort and rest. You have a door. You have a lock. You have a key. You have the power to decide who enters this space, this ultimate sanctuary. The worries of the day, the modern equivalent of the cold and the hunger, they are all on the other side of that door. They cannot reach you here. In this room, in this bed, you are as safe as any monarch in a palace. You are protected. You are provided for. You are home. Let the gratitude for this simple, profound fact wash over you. Not a gratitude that stirs you, but a gratitude that settles you, that roots you even more deeply into this state of blissful rest. Every ounce of your being can now relax, completely and utterly, because every one of your needs is met. The story of the Victorian night is now a soft, fading picture in your mind. The images are blurring, losing their edges, becoming like the soft, grey light of the dawn we described. The hiss of the gas lamp merges with the sound of your own breath. The distant chime of the clock is now the clock in your own hallway, ticking softly, marking the peaceful passage of time toward morning. The feeling of the cold stone is gone, replaced by the memory of the warm grate, which is now the feeling of your own warm bed. The two sensations have merged, and the comfort has won. The past has softened into a gentle dream, and you are present, here, now, in the ultimate safety of your own night. Your body is becoming one with the bed. You cannot feel where you end and the comfort begins. Your arms are heavy and relaxed. Your legs are heavy and relaxed. Your eyelids are so heavy, so comfortable, so content to remain closed. Your breathing is slow and even and deep. Each breath in brings a feeling of peace. Each breath out releases the very last remnants of tension, of thought, of awareness. You are drifting down, down into the deepest, most restorative sleep. The story is over. The historical facts have been gently shared. The nervous system is calm. There is nothing left to do but to surrender completely to the warmth and the darkness. You are safe. You are home. You are loved. The hearth of the world is not out there in the cold anymore. It is right here, in your own chest, in the steady, rhythmic beat of your heart. It is in the gentle rise and fall of your breathing. It is in the profound, perfect peace that now fills you from head to toe. Sleep now. Deep, dreamless, healing sleep. The journey is over. You have arrived. Chapter 5. The Gentle Art of Unknowing. The city is fully awake now. The sounds we have observed shifting through the long night have settled into the steady, familiar drone of the day. Carts rumble, vendors call out their wares. The distant whistle of a steam engine punctuates the air. The night folk, those spectral figures of the hours of darkness, have dissolved into the crowd. They are there, of course. The woman selling matches on the corner, the old man sweeping a crossing, the child running an errand. But they are no longer defined by the night. They are simply part of the immense, flowing tapestry of London life. Their nightly trials are over, and the cycle continues. For us too, the act of observation is complete. We have borne witness, with gentle compassion, to a world of struggle and resilience. And now it is time to let it go. It is time to practice the gentle art of unknowing, to release the images of the past and fully return to the profound peace of your own present moment. This chapter is not about the Victorians. This chapter is about you. It is about the space that opens up when a story ends, and how we can fill that space, not with more thought, but with perfect, quiet stillness. The narrative has done its work. It has captivated your mind, given it a gentle focus, and now, like a boat arriving at a tranquil shore, it can be left behind. You do not need to hold on to the story. You do not need to remember its details. You can allow each word, each image, each sound to fade away, like a ripple disappearing on a still pond. The water remains, calm and clear and deep. That water is your own consciousness, once stirred by the story. now returning to its natural state of serene awareness. Begin by releasing the senses one by one. Let go of the imagined sounds. The hiss of the gas lamp can fade now. It is replaced by the true, gentle silence of your room. The call of the riverboat can recede down the Thames of your mind until it is gone, leaving only the sound of your own blood pulsing softly in your ears. A quiet, internal rhythm that is the soundtrack of your own aliveness. The memory of the cold, let that be the first to dissolve. Feel it evaporate from your mind, and in its place, acknowledge the true, consistent, enveloping warmth that surrounds your actual body. The warmth is real. The cold was just a story. Let the reality of your comfort be the only truth you know. Now release the sense of sight, the image of the star over the bridge, the glow of the coffee stall, the grey light of dawn. Let them all soften, blur, and melt away. Behind your closed eyelids, there is no need for any picture. There is only a gentle, dark warmth. It is the darkness of rest, of healing, of deep and nourishing sleep. It is not the frightening darkness of a city alley. It is the welcoming darkness of a safe haven. You can sink into this darkness willingly, knowing it holds no threats, only restoration. It is the velvet curtain that closes on the day's performance, and it signals that your work of being awake is done. Let go of the sense of time. The chiming of the great clock has ended. There are no more hours to mark, no more segments of the night to endure. In this state of rest, time loses its meaning. A minute, an hour, it is all the same peaceful, eternal now. There is no past for you to regret, no future for you to anticipate. There is only this endless, expansive present moment, filled with nothing but safety and comfort. Your breathing is the only measure of time you need. And it is slow, and it is even, and it is timeless. Finally, release the sense of self. This is the deepest peace of all. The gentle art of unknowing is the art of letting go of the thinker, the listener, the observer. There is no longer a you listening to a story about Victorian London. There is no longer a you trying to sleep. There is only sleep itself. There is only the experience of warmth. There is only the feeling of weightlessness. The boundaries of your body are softening. You are merging with the comfort of the bed, with the quiet of the room, with the stillness of the night. You are becoming part of the peace that you have been seeking. You are not trying to rest. You have become rest. Your body is no longer a collection of separate parts, arms, legs, a head. It is a single, unified field of profound heaviness and relaxation. It is supported completely by the bed, which is supported by the floor, which is supported by the earth. You are held, utterly and completely, by the world. You are safe. You are secure. You are home. There is nothing to do, nothing to remember, nothing to solve. Every concern, every thought, every whisper of the mind has been gently brushed away, like a cobweb in a breeze. The story is forgotten. The history is released. All that remains is this perfect, silent, warm darkness. You are floating in it. You are embraced by it. You are it. Drift now. Don't try to listen, don't try to understand. Let the words become meaningless sounds, gentle vibrations that soothe. The surface of your mind before fading into nothingness. The journey is over. The observation is complete. The art of unknowing is mastered. There is only sleep. Deep, dreamless, healing sleep. You are there.